Okay, it's 2 o'clock now, right?
Yes.
So let me start. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Friends, today our sutta is Maha Rahulovada Sutta, or the greater discourse of advice to Rahula from the Majjhima Nikaya. The sutta begins with the Buddha going into Savatthi. Savatthi is the town there, the city, right? For alms. Venerable Rahula, who was also going for alms, followed close behind the Buddha. Venerable Rahula was 18 years old by this time and looked very much like his father, Siddhartha, who was now the Buddha. For those who are not familiar, I hope that will be enough. He noted this similarity with pleasure and was filled with admiration for the Buddha as well as for himself, because he was so happy that he looked very much like the Buddha. The Buddha read Venerable Rahula's thought and turned back to warn him before he could fall into trouble. The Buddha gave a strong advice. He said, within quotes, Rahula, any form, feeling, perception, thought, or consciousness, whether past, future, or present, inferior or superior, far or near, should be seen with wisdom. This is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. Now let us look at that paragraph again. Now the first part is, Buddha said, any form, form means this, the body, right? Any form. Feeling. Now we get feelings, don't we? So the feeling. Any form, feeling, perception. That's how we look at things, right? Perception. Thought, based on all those we think, thought, or consciousness. or consciousness. Now, these are called the 5 aggregates. The body, feelings, perception, thought, and consciousness. So, the Buddha said, now, these aggregates, whether past, future, or present. Now, past means what has happened in the past, right? And future means the plans that we make. Present means what's happening now. Now, it was really the present time that Venerable Rahula was looking at, right? The present time, because when he was going with the Buddha, he was thinking this. So the Buddha said this. Internal or external? Internal means inside, right? Within us. External means everything that's outside. So, internal or external? Gross or subtle? That means the way it is made. Something may be rough, something may be smooth, that kind of thing. Gross or subtle. Inferior or superior? Now sometimes we compare ourselves with others and think inferior or superior or equal, right? So now in the same way, Venerable Rahula was thinking, my father is so superior, I am also superior, right? So that is why Buddha said inferior or superior. Far or near, whether the other, whatever you are thinking of is close by, or whether it is far. How should it be seen? With wisdom. Now, with wisdom, how? This is not mine. This is not mine. This is not mine. This I am not. this is not myself. And how did Venerable Rahula thought? He thought with ignorance. That is why the Buddha said, you must think with wisdom. And then, now, after hearing that, instead of going for alms, Venerable Rahula thought, I must follow the advice given to me, and meditated the whole day. He didn't even go for alms. He meditated. In the evening, he went to the Buddha to get more instructions. Now, the Buddha explained the meditation on the 4 elements to help Venerable Rahula to get rid of his attachment to the body. Because you see, he was so now nice looking, handsome young man, right? 18 years. So, now I'll deviate from the Sutta to explain about the elements. Now let us see what the 4 elements are. Actually, the Buddha was talking of 5 elements. That is with, I will come to that. Now, let us see the just the 4 elements first, right? Now, the 4 elements are, the first one is called the earth element. And the earth element is in Pali, Patavi. Patavi in Pali. So, earth element. Then, water element. That is Apo in Pali, water element. Heat element. That is Tejo. Air element. In Pali, Vayu. Now, these are the primary elements that form our body. Right? And just like our body, all the other things around. So, these are called Maha Bhuta because they are the primary elements. Now, I told you there is another element that Buddha talked about, that is about space. Now, that is really a secondary element. So, therefore, I am not going to deal with that element in this context, right? So, the elements are called Dhatu in Pali. Dhatu. Because this is the reason, for each has its own separate characteristic of grasping, suffering, and sorting out. Now let me explain that. Grasping. Now see, we think of this as ours, my body. I am Sudinna. So, in the same way, all of you think like that, right? About your own body. So, we grasp this body. We cling to this body. And we think we own this body, right? So, that is the reason why it is said, because this is one of the characteristics of the elements. That is, grasping. Then the next one is, because we grasp this, we suffer. Now, supposing some kind of illness came to this body. Because I think it is my body, I will be so worried about it, right? And thinking about it and trying to get rid of it and so many things, right? So the suffering comes because of the grasping. And then there is the sorting out. That of course is sorting out means the differentiating between I am, you, right? You, yourself, my goods, your goods, you know, that kind of thing. So, and now we come back to the elements. Now these elements are impermanent. They don't stay the same way. They are impermanent and liable to destruction. That is why we die, right? So, they can be painful and they have no core, nothing substantial in them, though we think that there is. And so, because of that, because there is no core in it, no substantial thing in it, it is not a self. Though we think there is a self here, there is no self. Now these elements, these 4 elements are inseparable because they always arise together. If one comes, the others also come. Now we will be looking at this in a moment, then you will see that. They are originated by 4 things. Originated means they arise, they come to, they come into being due to 4 things. First is karma. Now you understand that. Because of our past karma, we have come here. Right? Each one different from each other. We are not similar, right? Similar in, as a human being, we are all similar. Our bodies are similar. But when we look at, each other, there is a difference. So all that because of karma. So now that is one of the characteristics, one of the things that originate, that give rise to the elements, karma. Then the next one is consciousness. So because of consciousness, what do? We do many things. All our actions are due to the consciousness that we have. That's called vijnana in Pali, consciousness. Then nutriment. Now see, when you go to the table and sit down to eat, what is there? All from outside, which you put inside, right? So the nutriment is the next thing that the elements give us. Then the next one is temperature, right? Cool temperature, warm temperature, hot temperature, temperature. Now these are the 4 things that give rise to the elements. Now elements can be, as I said earlier, internal or external. That means internal or external, everything that is found outside. So now let us take these elements one by one, their characteristics and their, how we can recognize them. The earth element can be recognized by its hardness. One thing is its hardness. Then roughness, stiffness, smoothness, and softness. Now can you see the contrast? There are opposites there. Roughness and smoothness, softness and, hardness, right? Now, if you look at our own bodies, you will see that. Now, see the bones, very hard and stiff. Now, see the some other, thing like the heart or something, very soft. Okay? So, though we don't see it. So, it has the ability, now this is the earth element, has the ability to harden or soften. Now see, if we take a piece of ice, we leave it somewhere, it will melt. It will not be hard anymore. Even a piece of cheese, you can make it hard or soft, right? So the earth element is the base for the other 3 elements. Now the earth element is the one that keeps this body like this. The way it is, the shape, the size, the color, all these things are there because of the earth element. And the other 3 elements are based on the earth element. So, okay, now let us go to the water element. The water element can be recognized by its fluidity, flowing, and also cohesion. That means it binds the other elements together. Now see our body, how it binds the body together. We'll come to that. The weight of the water shows the presence of the earth element in it. Now see, when we take say a glass, empty glass, it has its weight. When we pour water into it, it becomes heavier, isn't that so? That is because the water element has the earth element in it. And now when we take some water, now say there is air in it too. Air. How do we prove that? Now when we take some water and we put it like this, then it will spread a little. Spread a little. Depending on the amount of water you pour down, it will spread a little. But it won't go, just all over. Because of the air element, it controls it too. So the air element spreads it out as well as controls it. So that shows that these elements are there in the water element. And now we come to the heat element. The heat element is seen as fiery, though small amounts of the other three elements are also present in the heat element. Now see, if we touch our body, it has some kind of warmth. When we are dead, of course, it will be cold, altogether cold. But while we are living, there is some heat. All the heat comes from the sun. Then the air element has the ability to expand and contract. The air element. It can stick and bind together also, for it has a certain amount of the property of water and earth elements. Even the air element has the other two elements also. So therefore, all these elements you can see the one quality is more than the other qualities in each one. That is why we give them these names of earth, water, air and heat. But they all contain all these elements together. All four elements exist in two ways. That is internal and external. Now we come to our own form. The physical form aggregate is made up of four great elements, right? Their presence can be felt by contact. Now when we touch something, we can feel the hardness, softness or whatever. Now you are sitting. When you are sitting, you can feel the whatever you are sitting on, whether it's a cushion or whether it's a chair, you can feel, that is the earth element that you can feel. The internal earth element, that is what is inside, is what we think belongs to us. We think it is ours, which is solid, solidified and clung to. We cling to it, thinking it is mine. These are now, when we think of some of these, there are altogether 20 parts of the earth element in here. I'm not going into all the 20. If you want, we will later discuss. But just a few of them. Now see body, in this body you get the head hairs, right? They belong to the earth element, the head hairs. Then there is the body hairs all over. Then the nails, the teeth, the skin, those are the ones that we can see. Then there are other things inside. So these belong to the earth element. Now though we think of this as one solid thing, you know that it is not so, isn't it so? It can be divided into so many little things, the atoms, right? So therefore, that is why we say that this body does not belong to us, right? So now let us see the next one, that is the internal water element. That is what's here. It's formed, the water element in the body is formed of bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, and so on. There are altogether 12 parts. So altogether, the earth element and the water element together form 32 parts of the body. The heat element and the air element, you can't, put together like in this way. We feel them, but they are not, like this visible, not visible. Then we come to the internal heat element in the body. Now we are talking of the body, right? The body is warmed by the heat element. That is why we feel the warmth in the body. Now, something else also happens. From the time that we are born until we die, what happens? Aging. This aging is also done by heat element. So, we really need the heat element, but at the same time, can you see, the heat element makes us do or makes us happen, happen to the body, something that we don't like, that is aging, right? but still it is there. It happens. So, what is eaten now when we eat, tasted, etc., and consumed gets digested by the heat element. So that the heat element is necessary for us. We can't say because it ages us, we don't come here, we don't want you. Can't say that. So the internal air element now, let us take up that, means the upgoing winds. Now when we belch or when we vomit, it's the upgoing winds that happen. Then the downgoing winds, the winds in the belly. There are, winds in the belly. The wind in the bowels, the wind that goes through the limbs all over. Actually, if you look for it, you will see that all over the body there is air. We need air. And of course, the in and out breath that we use, right? We know that one. That is our friendly breath. So now these are the 4 things that we find in this body. We can experience any of the elements when sitting, standing, walking or lying down. Now these 4 are the postures of meditation too. The material that goes to form this body is just the same as anything else found in nature. We think that the trees are different, the animals are different. No, they are all the same. The elements are the same. Only thing is the shape and the way it is made is different, but the things that go to form it are the same. The elements are the same. So, and one's own body is not essentially different from any other body. All bodies are the same. They may be different in color, in stature, in the thickness or whatever, but they are all the same. They are made of the same material. Both internal and external elements should be seen as just elements. If we see them like that, we won't harm anything. Buddha has said, if you stay under a tree and in its shade, don't even break a leaf from that tree. So you can see how much the Dhamma tells us to care for the environment, which we don't do. So when we examine our breath, we can see that though it is vital for us or for the body to survive or live or exist, this air is necessary that we take in. But what happens? As soon as we take it, it has to be returned to nature again. Isn't that so? That is why we say in breath and out breath. There is only a slight pause between. So, similarly, on close inspection, we can see that our whole body is a continuous process of exchanging elements with the outer world. When we eat, when we drink, whatever we do, we have that exchange with the outer world. We cannot live separately. So we have to look after the environment if we want to survive. Why do we learn about the elements? What are the advantages? As long as one does not examine this body by analyzing it into its elements, one will never lose the perception of a living being or man or woman or person. See, now this is the reason why we think there is a self here. And I, me, mine, you, so that there is that separateness. Now, when we analyze this body and what it contains into the elements, then we realize, oh, There is no person here. It's just, just the elements that are here. The aim of this analysis is to replace the sense of a compact self with a true view as a combination of elements, right? When we think of it like that, many of our problems will cease. Lots of problems we can solve by looking at it as elements. Then the sense of ownership also will be weakened. The sense of I am, and mine is the basis for the arising of craving. Now, the second noble, out of the Four Noble Truths, the second one is the cause for the suffering. The cause for the suffering is because we think there is a self here which we have to protect and which we have to, do so many things for, and we crave. There is that craving, the attachment. So now, when we see this, it's all made up of elements, and just now listening to it and just forgetting about it is not enough. We have to keep on thinking, about this. Investigate it. Is it true? Investigate. That is one of the most important factors in the enlightenment factors. Second factor is investigation. So, really speaking, it's not the fault of the language that we have to talk of I and you and me and so on. But the underlying attachment that creates these problems. It's not the language, but the attachment that is there under the language. When I say I really think there is an I here. Venerable Sariputta says, Venerable Sariputta is the chief disciple of the Buddha. So Venerable Sariputta says, when a space is enclosed with bones and sinews and flesh and skin, there comes to be the term rupa or form. So, space, as I told you, is one of the elements. That is one of the secondary elements. So, when the space is covered by this, this skin and bones and, all these things, just like we make a house, and then, the house is made up of what? Earlier, those days, it was made up of wattle and daub. But today, it's made up of so many other things that are more lasting. But still, it covers space. In the same way, our bodies also cover space. And then we say there is a form or rupa. All this means this idea is formed or is produced in one's own mind or self and firmly taken. We take it firmly as the truth and seized. We grasp it, supported and maintained as I and mine. So that is the reason this I and mine comes as obstacles in so many forms. And then that's how we get angry with people. That's how we, fight with people. Sometimes, there are wars between countries, all because of this I and mine. Now, even a monastic, while still living as a worldling. Now, all monastics are not the same, right? So even those days, during the Buddha's time, there were monastics who were worldlings still. They had not attained any attainment. So then there is ignorance. There is ignorance in them. So, and the idea of a living being or man or woman or individual will be there in the mind always, That is why even those days, when you read the suttas, when you read the Dhammapada and, the Dhamma in many, many forms, you find so many stories about how they behaved, bhikkhus as well as bhikkhunis. So that is because they were still ignorant. They had not attained any attainment. So that they still believed that there was a person there. It's only when this body is analyzed into elements that this idea disappears. And then the mind becomes calm and tranquil. Because even if somebody were to say something, now say there is a monastic who has, learned the elements and is always looking at the elements, right? Someone who is, very familiar with the elements, who always, tries to analyze and see. Now, such a monastic, if someone were to scold or abuse or insult such a monastic, you know how he would react. He would not say, oh, and, retort in the same way or react in the same way angrily. No. This is what he or she would think. This painful feeling, the painful, now, if he or she has not still become an arahant, he or she will get a painful feeling. When you are insulted for nothing, when you are insulted for, or abused for nothing, then you feel bad about it and you feel sad and, you suffer, you feel a pain for it. And then when that pain comes, now this monastic who is used to analyzing the elements would think, oh, this painful feeling born of ear contact has arisen in me. Now I must explain that a little bit to you. Now, when you hear something, there are three things that come into play. One is the ear. The ear must be in good condition. Same with the eye or any other sense. The ear, then the object that comes, that is the sound. The sound, maybe music, maybe that sound of abuse or whatever it is. Now the sound, the ear, the sound and consciousness. These three things must come together for some person to hear. Now this monastic who is used to analyzing the elements would think, oh, this painful feeling born of ear contact has appeared or has arisen in me. Now as a monastic who meditates on the elements should show one's strength of mind by seeing this experience as impermanence and will not be disturbed. Now see how that monastic would react. I'm not going to be disturbed because it is only the ear contact. Okay? So, the Buddha tells Venerable Rahula, within inverted commas, elements should be seen as it really is. This is not mine. This I am not. This is not myself. So the Buddha tells Venerable Rahula, this is how you should look at the elements. Having seen thus, when you see it like this, one becomes disenchanted. Now why does Buddha use this word disenchanted? That is because we are all enchanted. We are all passionate. We have this passion in us. And when we see something that interests us, and we get elated, full of joy. When something bad happens to us, we lament and we cry and we feel so sad. Now all that happens because, why? Because we are enchanted. So the Buddha says, when you look at it, things like this is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself, then you get disenchanted. When Rahula, that is the Buddha is saying now, when Rahula, a bhikkhu does not recognize a self or the belongings of a self. Now see, the belongings can be this body, or, things like your book or your robes, or, all the other things that are there. So when you do not recognize the self or the self's belonging, in these four elements, he is called a bhikkhu who has cut off craving. Such a bhikkhu may not have still attained to arahantship or any other, higher attainment. But when you are used to this kind of analyzing the elements, then he is called a bhikkhu who has cut off craving, stripped off the fetter of craving, and by completely breaking through conceit, has made an end of suffering. Now, Buddha is talking about an arahant, right? But we know that if we also do the same thing about, our own experiences by dividing into, or by, looking at these elements in the same way, we too could get our craving lessened. We can weaken the craving. It might interest you to see how the elements work when we move. When we walk, when we do anything, when we act, when we, whatever we may do, the actions that we do, how do they happen? When going forward, now I have just taken the example of walking. When going forward, first we form the intention to walk. The intention must come first. Then what do? You lift up the foot. First you lift up the foot. Now when you lift up the foot, what happens? The fire element and the air element become strong. The fire element and the air element become strong when you lift up the foot. Then the earth element and the water element are, weaker. They are not as strong. Then, now you are walking, so you push forward the foot. When you push forward the foot, the air element is dominant, right? Then, now you have to place the foot again on the ground, right? When you place the foot on the ground, when lowering the foot, the water element and the earth element become stronger. Then we press the foot down on the ground. Then the earth element is dominant. So this is how the elements work when we move forward, or when we have some kind of action. Okay? So now the actual sutta that we have been discussing is about these four elements. Now before this, I discussed with you fetters and hindrances, as you can remember, I hope. Now those are mental factors that block the proper understanding of how our mind works. That is the hindrances and the fetters. Today we studied elements. These are material or physical factors that form the base for the mental factors to perform their functions. The mind cannot work without the body. So the physical factors are also important. So today we studied about those are the elements. Having studied both mentality and materiality, now we are in a position to evaluate their importance in our lives. But the perspectives of the laity and the clergy may be different. Why? While a monastic may use this same knowledge to find liberation from samsara, the laity may use it to make life easier and happier while still being a part of worldly life. Now, I can't expect you to leave your homes and husbands and wives and children and everybody and go into a forest, right? That can't be done, or even into a temple. So, as you live in the world, how can we use this knowledge to better our, living? Now, let us look at that. The analysis of the body into its elements may open a new way of looking at things, society, and relations with others. Right? For instance, the values we gave to our possessions. I use the past tense because I thought now after listening to this, the attachments might get less. So anyway, the values we gave to our possessions, both animate and inanimate. Now we think of our children, my child, your child, right? It doesn't matter about your child, but my child, is the most important. So that kind of thing, right? The animate and the inanimate. And the problems they created, right? Whether animate things or inanimate things, they create problems. The difficulties we face, the conflicts within the family, between parents and children, siblings, friends and neighbors, all these may shrink in importance and our outlook may change into a smoother, calmer, and equanimous one. The problem that we thought was the root cause of our unhappiness may not be so painful now. Now, very often what we do is, when something happens, we think it's the other person who's to blame, and we blame somebody. So, all these things might, dwindle down to nothing. Even an unwholesome thought that might arise, we may now see as belonging to desire or hatred or delusion and feel ashamed perhaps and drop it. Some individuals battle with their feelings, misunderstandings, doubts, unsatisfactoriness, etc. But when thought in terms of elements, they may realize how useless and futile squabbles like these are and turn a new leaf in life, which is close to the noble eightfold path. Now, even this analyzing of elements can lead to the practice of patience. Because, when something happens, we need a little patience to remember the elements rather than react quickly. And also faith in the Dhamma. Oh, this Dhamma has given me so much of peace and happiness. And also equanimity. You can face life with equanimity. So now that is the sutra, and at the end of the sutra, the Venerable Rahula was so happy, and it is said that now there is another sutta called the Rahulovada Sutta that came about when he was 20 years. Now this came about when he was 18 years. Now at the end of the Rahulovada Sutta, sorry for the disturbance. Where is my? Oh dear. Sorry. So in the at the end of the Rahulovada Sutta, the Venerable Rahula becomes an Arahant, but not at the end of this sutta. Now, when this sutta was given, he was 18 years, so that means he was still a novice. When he became, he was 20 and he was more mature, that is the time when Buddha gave the Chula Rahulovada Sutta, and at the end of that, he became an arahant too. So, now friends, are you tired, or would you like to do a little bit of meditation?
Meditation?
Would you like to?
Yes.
All of you? Okay. Then I would suggest that we meditate on the elements. But we could use all 4 elements, of course, but we could also use one of them. Since this is our first one on meditation on the elements, it might be easier to use one, right? So now air is also an element. So we can use the air element, that is the one that you are used to, the in-breath and out-breath. So I'll talk about it a little bit before we start. Though we do not see it like the earth element or the water element, the real life-giving element is the air element. Without air, we cannot live. So, therefore, we should be more careful and grateful to the air element. Though we ignore it usually, now we are going to locate it, see how it comes in and how it goes out. So, the actual entry point is the nose, though it goes inside and goes out. So, this could be an interesting experience if you really think in terms of elements. This is an element, right? So, how the body, when you take it in, how the body appreciates it, because the body is also made of elements. So, when you put this element in, the body is very happy. So, when it goes out, the body is a little bit, little upset like. Then as soon as it takes in again, oh, the body is very happy. So now we can do for about 5 minutes or even a little more if you don't mind. Okay, right? You are ready now? Okay, so now first of all, take a few deep breaths. Hold as long as you can. Hold it inside. Okay. Now, keep the upper part of your body straight, the spine straight with the neck and the head, and relax the body and the mind. Okay, now close your eyes. See where the air touches your nose or upper lip or even the abdomen, rising and falling. You can look at that also if you are used to that. Then, when you take in the breath, see whether it's a short breath or a long breath. And also, see if there is a pause in between the breaths, the in-breath and out-breath. A short, very short pause. If you don't catch it, it's all right. See if the breath makes you calm and joyful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Are there any questions?
Bhikkhunin Vahansa,
Yeah?
can you explain that the Kaya Anupassana, in that meditation, that Kaya Anupassana, this is Dhatu Manasikara is the I think fifth meditation section. So
Yeah.
when we meditate on 4 elements, can we meditate one by one, or can we meditate 4 together? Can you explain that, please,
Yes.
Bhikkhu?
Yes. Now, you could do it either way. You could take all 4 together, or you could take one by one. Because you see now, if you look at if you look at the earth element, you
Yes.
could take even a hair,
Yeah. Yeah.
even a hair, and go into the depths of it, how it is placed in the skull, how it is, they are embedded in the skull, and then how it emanates, it comes out of the skull, and, it's resilient, the way it is made, how hard it is, all those things can be looked at. But at the same time, the most important thing that you must look for is the impermanence in it.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
That,
when you now you know that the hair that you were born with are no longer there.
yeah.
They have fallen and new hairs have come. So like that, it is the way it is, right?
Yeah.
Even now, even if you take some, now I just took an example that you can see, but
Yeah.
even you can take something that's inside, even all these cells change every 7 years, it seems. And I don't know, I mean, I'm not a scientist. The saying is that they change every 7 years. Not a single cell is there that started 7 years back. So therefore, we know that impermanence is the most important characteristic that, is in this world. When you see impermanence, you can see the other two easily. That is suffering or unsatisfactoriness and non-self. Now,
None.
when you see the impermanence of things, not only the hair, but I mean everything. Or now
Yeah.
we know that there are 4 elements. You can take, then once you have come across the one element, you can take the other 3 also, along with it, the
Yeah.
the elements, and
Yeah.
then you can see for yourself. All these are impermanent. All these don't stay. All these change. So, and they are very unsatisfactory. They do not, we have no control over them. We cannot say, now stop aging. It will not stop. It will just go on in its own pace, in its own way. So, therefore, this cannot belong to me. It's not mine. It has no self. So, now when you attain Sotapanna, the first fetter that you get rid of is this one, Sakkaya Ditti. And
Yes.
Sakkaya Ditti is the sense of self, that there is a self here. And that is why we, do so many wrong karma, bad karma, because of this. We do good karma also. Not that we don't do good karma. Karma is done because of this self. So therefore, when you meditate on the elements, if you like, next time we can do a meditation on the elements. You have to look at the way it is made, the element.
Yes.
Then when you look at the element itself, you will realize that it changes. The element that was there earlier is not the same as the element now. So it may not be visible, but it has changed. So you see the impermanence of the elements. Then you can go on to the next one, that is the suffering, the unsatisfactoriness of the elements. Then you go to the non-self. So when you look at these elements, you can look at these 3 also.
Yeah. Anitya dukkha anatta.
Anicca, dukkha, anatta.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Homa ping bhikkhunin wahanse.
Any other questions? Nimaka? No questions?
I am so glad today. This is the first time I joined your Sutta discussion session. Yeah, I thankful to Pushpa.
You're welcome. Come again next time. We are having it next in 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks time. Okay, that means every other Saturday.
Yeah, every other Saturday. That's right.
Okay. Pushpa.
Did Solomon also come?
No, he is doing some work there.
Okay, that's all right.
He didn't
That's
join
great.
either. Because this is very suddenly. Pushpa, just maybe 30, not even then, 30 minutes ago, Pushpa sent the link.
Okay.
I did everything very fast and joined.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
You're
thank
very
you
encouraging.
so much. And Bhikkhuneen Vahanse, you spend your valuable time, energy, and your knowledge to give us this Dhamma knowledge, and you got lot of merits, and because of that, you will attain Nibbana. I think that you may attain Nibbana. I wish.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm very grateful to all the people who look after me here, you know. So
Yes, I
I'm
know.
doing something for them.
Yeah,
That's
yes,
why I organized this.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you all of you so much. And thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Teruvan
Thank you.
Saranai.
Teruvan Saranai.
Thank you.
Rundran Saranai.
Teruvan Saranai.
Okay, then no questions?
Thank you.
Yes, dear. Danny? Did you listen?
Yes. I'm very happy.
You have a question?
No, I just want to say thank you, and that I'm very happy to be a.
I'm glad, Danny. But if you have anything, you can even write to me by email.
Okay.
Right? Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Sadhu.
Thank you.
Thank you.